China held a second day of military drills near Taiwan today. According to Chinese state media, the three-day operation will rehearse encircling the island. The display of force started shortly after Taiwan's president met with U.S. lawmakers in California, despite strong opposition from Beijing. Yvette Brand has more.
A show of military might off the coast of Taiwan. China has sent in 71 planes and 9 warships, simulating a naval blockade. The aggression began after a meeting on U.S. soil last Wednesday. Taiwan's President Tsai Ing-wen met with the U.S. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy in California. Beijing views Taiwan as a breakaway province and wants it reunified with China.
Thank you very much, Vice President Tsai, for your very warm words.
A similar escalation threatened a crisis between China and Taiwan last August after the then U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi visited the island.
We come in friendship to Taiwan. We come in peace for the region.
U.S. Representative Madeleine Dean says it's critical for the U.S. to strengthen ties with Taiwan.
Congress is really united on our support for Taiwan, both economically, but also, of course, militarily, for deterrence. We know that the best thing that we can do, that Taiwan can do, is deterrence in order to protect peace.
The tensions over Taiwan are also rattling people in mainland China. This Beijing woman says her business relies on international trade with Taiwan and North American markets. China's President Xi Jinping has not ruled out force as a way to bring Taiwan back under Chinese control. While visiting Taiwan last week, Chair of the U.S. House of Foreign Affairs Committee Michael McCall promised U.S. support.
And we will provide training to your military, not for war, but for peace.
A delegation of 10 Canadian MPs are on their way to Taiwan. The MPs are from all major political parties. They're set to meet with Taiwanese lawmakers this week, a gesture of solidarity with the self-governing island as Canada itself grapples with the allegations of political interference from the Chinese government. Yvette Bren, CBC News, Vancouver.
2 former Democrat lawmakers in Tennessee are calling on the state legislature to reappoint them to their seats. Justin Jones and Justin Pearson, who are both black, were expelled by Republican lawmakers on Thursday. It was retaliation for joining a protest on the House floor calling for gun control measures after the deaths of 6 people in a school shooting in Nashville. A third Democrat at the protest, Gloria Johnson, who is white, avoided expulsion from her seat by 1 vote. Speaking on Rosemary Barton Live this morning, Justin Pearson says he believes race was a major factor in the decision.
It is not normal to expel people from duly elected positions who were elected by the folks in their district to represent them and elevate the issues of concern for them. This is an egregious overreaction and abuse of power that is deeply concerning for anybody who cares about democracy. This type of behavior we expect in some forms of government, but definitely not this one.
The expulsion of Jones and Pearson leaves nearly 140,000 voters in primarily black districts with no representation in the House. Special elections for the seats are set to begin in the coming months. Meanwhile, the fight for abortion access in the U.S. could be headed to the highest court in the country. Democrats are pushing back on a Texas judge's decision to ban a pill that induces abortions. It's a heated battle between the two sides that'll likely need to be decided by the Supreme Court. Katie Simpson reports.
For America's sake and for women's sake, we have to prevail on this.
The Biden administration says it is examining all options in its legal fight to guarantee access to the most commonly used abortion pill in the United States. Health and Human Services Secretary Javier Becerra says with the appeal now underway, he's hopeful this decision will be overturned.
If a judge decides to substitute his preference, his personal opinion, for that of scientists and medical professionals, what drug isn't subject to some kind of legal challenge?
On Friday, a Texas judge ruled that the Food and Drug Administration's approval of mifepristone 23 years ago is invalid, citing safety concerns raised by anti-abortion groups that have been disputed by officials at the FDA. On the same day, another judge in Washington state separately declared the FDA should not restrict the drug, setting in motion a path for this issue to be decided by the U.S. Supreme Court. It is poised to be the most significant abortion-related decision since it overturned Roe v. Wade last summer.
And the reality of our courts right now is very disturbing. This ruling is an extreme abuse of power. It is an extraordinary example of judicial overreach.
Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a New York Democrat, says the FDA should ignore any court order on this issue. Texas Republican Representative Tony Gonzalez says his party may have to use its majority in the House to penalize the FDA if it does not follow the law.
The House Republicans have the power of the purse. It may become a point where House Republicans on the appropriation side have to defund FDA programs that don't make sense.
Protecting access to abortion has become a rallying cry for Democrats, helping them win key elections in battleground states, including in Wisconsin this past week.
I do believe in common sense restrictions on abortion. That's where America's at.
Republican Senator Lindsey Graham says his party can be more successful if it refines its message and backs his plan for a federal abortion ban at 15 weeks, with some exceptions for rape, incest, and if it threatens the life of the mother.
We can win this issue at the ballot box if we show up with reasonable positions. If we have our head in the sand, we're going to lose.
This legal fight will not be resolved quickly, and there is expected to be confusion about the legality of mifepristone as decisions are made and appealed in the months ahead. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Washington.
Rescue workers dig through the rubble of 2 buildings that collapsed in an explosion in Marseille, France. At least 8 people are missing and believed to be in the debris. 5 others are in hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Local authorities say the collapsed buildings did not have any known structural problems. The cause of the explosion is not yet known. A delegation from Oman is mediating peace talks between Saudi Arabia and Iran-backed Houthi officials in Yemen's capital. The talks are reported to be focused on reopening Yemen's ports, payment of wages for public servants, and rebuilding the country. Houthi fighters ousted Yemen's government in 2014. Since then, they've been fighting against a Saudi-led military alliance in a war that has killed tens of thousands of people. Hopes for a peace agreement were bolstered last month after China helped Saudi Arabia and Iran restore relations with one another. If peace talks are successful, a deal could be signed before the end of the month. In India, there is growing pressure on the government over counting caste in the national census. In the caste system, people are born into social classes, with Brahmins at the top and Dalits at the bottom. The system was outlawed decades ago, and historically oppressed groups are entitled to certain benefits. As Sushmita Pathak reports from Delhi, those in favor of a caste count say it'll ensure those benefits reach everyone they're supposed to.
Bollywood superstar Amitabh Bachchan once said if census workers ever ask him about his caste, his answer would be Indian. Like him, many people believe that counting caste only serves to legitimize it. Right-wing TV personality Arnab Goswami goes even further.
Caste. New India has moved away from caste. But the same political sections are now reviving the demand for a caste census, claiming there's going to be social benefit. But can caste identity become the focus again?
Delhi University sociology professor Satish Deshpande says that is a baseless argument.
Caste has managed to flourish quite happily in the 70 years that we have refused to count it.
He says a caste census would force Indians to face a hard truth.
The upper castes are a demographic minority, and yet they enjoy the vast majority of privileges and control most resources. And the census will, they fear, broadcast this fact backed by evidence that will be hard to shrug away.
The census already counts scheduled castes and scheduled tribes, commonly known as Dalits and Adivasis respectively, who are on the bottom of the social ladder, but not the thousands of castes classified as the other backward classes, or OBC. They make up about half of the population, but have not been counted since 1931. Deshpande says a census will show the OBC is not a homogeneous group.
It will provide evidence for very wide divergences in the levels of affluence of different OBC castes. And it will create a headache for whichever government is in power, because it will create the grounds for further demands in terms of welfare, in terms of representation.
India's ruling party, the BJP, says a caste census will be, quote, administratively difficult and cumbersome. But Sanjay Kumar with the Center for the Study of Developing Society says the BJP doesn't want a census for political reasons.
Regional parties may have an opportunity to play politics around that. And if that happens, that regional party may be able to make inroads among the OBC's voters.
In 2011, India conducted a separate socio-economic and caste census, but its findings were never released. The government said the data was flawed. A nationwide caste census is unlikely to take place anytime soon. But Satish Deshpande says it is a needed step forward.
The caste census is not a miracle cure for any problem, but it is an inevitable step that has to be taken along the very difficult path of addressing caste inequalities.
India postponed its national census in 2021 because of the pandemic. It's not clear when it will take place. For CBC News, I'm Sushmita Pathak in Delhi.
You're listening to The World This Weekend on CBC Radio. I'm Stephanie Skandaris. Canada has lost against Scotland in the gold medal match at the Men's Curling World Championships, with Brad Gushew's rink losing against Scotland's Bruce Mowat. CBC's Devin Haru has been there throughout the competition, and he joins us now. Devin, it must be a sad loss for Canada. What's the atmosphere there like right now?
Yeah, Stephanie, obviously not the performance or result Canadian fans inside TD Place were expecting or had hoped for here today. A 9-3 victory by this Scottish team. They were superior today, but 40 or 50 friends and family from Scotland have been traveling here. You can hear the roar in the arena right now. They're going crazy. This is Scotland's first men's world championship title since 2009. Gushew walking up the center of the arena right now, the crowd cheering from them. But just a superior performance. Bruce Mowat, the skip for Scotland curling, 97%, Stephanie.
Well, what's the journey been like for the Gushew rink throughout this week?
The thing about Gushew is he gets better as the tournament goes along. He's speaking over the loudspeaker here in a post-game interview. He fought like heck, Stephanie, to get to this gold medal game, won 9 of his last 10 games, put on quite the performance, beating the 4-time defending champion Swedish team and Switzerland yesterday just to get into this game. It's Brad Gushew's 3rd silver medal at a world championship. He so badly wanted to bring home gold for Canada, not to be, but he did so well just to get to this gold medal game.
Great effort from Gushew there. We can hear the roar of the crowd behind you. How significant is this win for Bruce Mowat?
Well, this is huge, and yeah, those cheers you're hearing right now for Brad Gushew, the crowd going, Gushew. They love him here in Ottawa. The crowd has been exceptional. But for Bruce Mowat, this is huge. This is a breakthrough for this Scottish team. They're younger. They've been looking for a big win on the international stage. They lost the Olympic gold medal game to Sweden last February in Beijing. But this was their moment. Every curler in the 90% range. It was a big moment, Stephanie. They met the moment, and I expect this Scottish team to be around for a long time. They're going to be winning at the highest level. They're finally on top of the curling world here today.
All right, we'll be keeping an eye on them. Thank you so much, Devin.
You're welcome.
That's Devin Haru at the Men's Curling World Championships in Ottawa. Tomorrow marks the 25th anniversary of a landmark peace deal, the Good Friday Agreement, also known as the Belfast Agreement. It ended decades of hostilities in Northern Ireland. Former Sinn Féin leader Gerry Adams was a key player in the peace talks.
To actually achieve a way of ending the war was probably the big achievement of the Good Friday Agreement.
The period from the late 1960s to 1998 is known informally as the Troubles. More than 3,500 people died in the conflict between the mostly Catholic Republicans, who wanted a united Ireland, and Unionists, who were largely Protestant and supported British rule. One of the most brutal days of the conflict, famously depicted by Irish band U2 in 1983.
This song is not a rebel song. This song is Sunday, Bloody Sunday.
Lead singer Bono delivering a mid-song monologue in a 1987 performance demanding peace.
What's the glory in taking a man from his bed and gunning him down in front of his wife and his children? Where's the glory in that? To leave them dying or crippled for life or dead under the rubble of the revolution that the majority of the people in my country don't want.
In 1998, negotiations were fraught. After a failed ceasefire years earlier, there were fears the agreement wouldn't be reached at all, reflects former British Prime Minister Tony Blair.
Well, the thing was in a state of collapse. It would be, sometimes it would be on and sometimes it would be off. Shortly before it was announced, it was off, and then we put it back on again. But it was an extraordinary roller coaster.
All the parties and the governments agree that if it had been a failure, the violence would have, started again at a fairly intense level, I think.
That was former Irish Prime Minister Bertie Ahern. Northern Ireland has since enjoyed a period of relative peace, but 25 years on, there are worries the Good Friday Agreement is fragile. The UK's decision to leave the European Union has revived divisions, and disagreements over Northern Ireland's post-Brexit future has left it without a functioning government for nearly a year, and the shadow of the Troubles lingers over a new generation. You've been listening to The World This Weekend. I'm Stephanie Skandaris. Good night.